Spiritual warfare. What is spiritual warfare? When we talk about spiritual warfare, so when talking about spiritual warfare, let's first look at the word warfare itself. Warfare, the purpose of warfare is to conquer an opponent. You have an opponent and you want to conquer that opponent. Well, it takes a few things to do that. Number one, as the Bible talks about, one must divide. In order to conquer, say, a nation as China, they had to divide it. So in the military, we're taught divide and conquer. So when we talk about warfare, the purpose of it is to overcome, conquer, and we do that through dividing, through deception, through manipulation. And we see that throughout the physical warfare as well as the spiritual warfare. So now, focusing on spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare, the very essence of spiritual warfare, can be found in Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 13, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 13. Also, we see Luke 10, Jesus writing that he beheld Satan cast down. So this is the first glance that we have at spiritual warfare, where that Lucifer, the anointed cherub, according to Ezekiel 28, became lifted up within himself, and iniquity was found in his heart. And in Isaiah 14:13, he tried to overcome, he tried to conquer, he tried to exalt himself above Jehovah. And that's where we see the first essence of spiritual warfare. And again, concluding with that, Jesus said, I beheld Satan cast down as lightning. So from there, we get into the spiritual warfare for the human race. So we know that Adam and Eve were created by God in the image of God. As a result of being created in the image of God, they were God's masterpiece. And the anointed cherub, formerly anointed cherub, Lucifer, who is now Satan, what does he want to destroy? He wanted to destroy God's best. The very thing God created in his image. The very individuals that God transferred the power, dominion of the earth from Lucifer, now Satan, to Adam and Eve. So he wanted to do everything he could to destroy them. Hence, we see it with Adam and Eve. He wanted them to separate themselves. He knew he couldn't destroy them unless they became vulnerable. So he needed them to separate themselves from God, divide themselves from God. So therefore, it would make them vulnerable for his attacks. So we see in Genesis chapter 2 and 3 how that he deceived them, manipulated the word of God in their minds, and beguiled or tricked them to partake of the tree of knowledge. And as a result of their disobedience, they were divided from God, as such that ongoing eternal harmony with God. So therefore, through division, he was now able to possibly, in his mind, conquer the human race. So we see that the first spiritual warfare accounts with Adam and Eve. And then as we move through the Bible, we see instances of spiritual warfare with Job. Job chapter 1, Job chapter 2, where that we read how that there's conversation going on in heaven amongst the sons of God. And Satan actually asked permission of God to tempt Job. So we see another essence of spiritual warfare. Then we also see it in Daniel chapter 9, where Daniel is praying for 21 days, and the angel comes to him and says, we were on our way, but there was battles going on in the spiritual realm. And then we also see it with Jesus in Matthew chapter 4. The tempter came and he was tempting Jesus, and we know the conversation. He tempted Jesus, if thou be the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. He went through, try to manipulate Jesus the same way, deceiving him, trying to manipulate him so that he would disobey God. And then we also see the spiritual warfare in two other instances Jesus experienced, where he spoke to the spirits in the man possessed with the demons in Gadarus, and the spirit said, our name is Legion, for we are many. So we see spiritual warfare going on there. And then last but not least instance, where when Simon Peter was speaking to Jesus, Jesus spoke to the spirit that was behind the very words that Peter said. And he says, get thee behind me, Satan. Get thee behind me, Satan. He wasn't speaking to the physical man, Peter. He was speaking to the spirit that was motivating him. So we see the spiritual warfare going on there as well.